All right, so today we're diving deep, and I mean really deep, into something that I think a lot of our listeners are going to find super interesting. We've got our hands on the first 30 minutes of an advanced conversational hypnosis training, and the trainer is Virginie. This is like a sneak peek right into the very start of this pretty unique kind of training. And, for those of you who really like to get a grasp on things quickly and just like love those moments when everything clicks, you're going to enjoy this. It's like the energy at the beginning and just the basic like core ideas all laid out right here. You can really see how this is a whole different kind of hypnosis training from the get-go.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not a polished, edited thing. It's the raw footage right from the start of this immersive 2-day event. So you get this real sense of the atmosphere, the vibe of the training. And also, you can really pick up on what the trainer is aiming for, what she wants the participants to get out of it. It's like a behind-the-scenes look at a fresh approach to a field that's been around for a long time.
I agree, it's fascinating. She starts off by welcoming everyone, all warm and enthusiastic, and she makes a point of saying that people are joining from all over the place. So right away, it's like you feel this sense of connection, but also diversity in the group. And almost immediately, she emphasizes how important it is that everyone feels relaxed and comfortable, like it's a really informal space for learning. She even tells everyone straight up, like, turn your cameras off if you want, get up and move around, grab a drink.
Yeah.
She really wants people to prioritize their own comfort.
I think it's a really telling sign right there, isn't it? Right away, it shows you that this is not your typical professional training, with all those rigid rules and structures you often see. It feels like the main goal here is to create a space where people can truly engage, and that means letting go of all the unnecessary formality. It suggests that they believe people learn best when they feel at ease and can take care of their own needs.
Right, and that informality carries over directly into how the training is going to happen. She makes it clear that this is not going to be a boring lecture with slides. She actually even mentions, like, oh, there's a masterclass on YouTube with some written materials, but this event, this 2-day thing, is something totally different.
And that's where it gets really exciting. Instead of all this heavy theory, she focuses on what she calls a 3D multidimensional experience. So participants will get to actually be the therapist, the client, and the observer, and they'll rotate through these roles. The idea here is that you don't really master conversational hypnosis by just reading about it. You have to experience it, be in the moment. It's very much learning by doing.
Exactly. This isn't about passively watching someone else do a technique. She explains that even the demonstrations are going to be super interactive. Like, she'll actually be coaching whoever's playing the therapist role, and she'll even interrupt them sometimes to point out all the important things that are happening unconsciously during the session.
That's a really unique way of teaching, isn't it? By jumping in with comments like, "Did you see that?" She's essentially training everyone's awareness in real time, like giving them a live commentary on all the little details of the interaction. It turns those demonstrations into these really powerful learning opportunities, way more than just watching someone else do their thing.
Now, it's also important to know who this training is for. She mentions that almost everyone there has a background in hypnotherapy or therapy or coaching. There's only one person who doesn't, a participant named Lena, and she's described as someone who's had a really amazing experience as a client of conversational hypnosis.
Right, and because most of the participants already have that knowledge base, it means the trainer can probably skip over some of the basics. But she does make one very specific request, which is that for these 2 days, everyone has to kind of set aside what they've learned in traditional hypnosis.
Yeah, that's a key instruction. She specifically says to put aside their knowledge of the history of hypnosis, Ericksonian language patterns, techniques, protocols, all that stuff. And the reason is pretty obvious, right? This isn't about going over familiar ground. It's about looking at therapy through a whole new lens. And that might involve letting go of some old habits to make room for a fresh perspective.
It really highlights something crucial about learning in general. Sometimes to really get a new idea, a new way of thinking, you have to kind of suspend your existing beliefs. That way you don't just filter everything through what you already know. It lets you be more open and receptive. And that willingness to step outside your comfort zone is super important for growth.
Absolutely. So after that initial setup, she opens it up to the participants and asks them to share why they're there. What are the challenges they're facing in their current practice, or what specifically drew them to this advanced conversational hypnosis training. And we get some really fascinating insights into their motivations. One participant, for example, talks about getting good results with clients, sometimes even in a single session, especially with things like phobias.
It's interesting, though, because Even though this participant is having success, they talk about feeling limited by the rigid structure of traditional methods. They feel like they could be doing more, be even more effective, especially with deeper, more complex issues. Not just focusing on getting rid of the symptoms. They actually used a really strong word. They said they felt trapped, like in a carcan, which means like a restrictive framework, talking about traditional approaches.
It speaks to that desire that a lot of experienced practitioners have, to evolve their practice, to find more nuanced ways of working, especially when they come across things that don't fit neatly into the standard protocols. There's this drive to go beyond just treating the symptoms and really understand what's going on beneath the surface.
And the trainer's response is really insightful. She validates that feeling and connects it directly to what conversational hypnosis is all about.
Yeah.
It's about that deeper level of understanding.
Mhm.
She introduces this idea of being curious, of cultivating curiosity as your main tool for uncovering what's really going on with the client. She even suggests that a single session can become like a series of smaller explorations, each one addressing a different layer of the problem. It's like reframing the therapeutic process as an investigation, not just a direct intervention.
Yeah, it's a really interesting shift. We then hear from another participant who kind of echoes some of these frustrations, especially about how there are often these moments in hypnosis sessions where things are clearly happening on an unconscious level, but it's not always clear why or how to really work with those moments effectively. They talked about clients having these involuntary movements, but with no conscious awareness of what's going on.
And this participant even shared personal experiences where they encountered these really strong unconscious reactions in clients and felt like they weren't equipped to handle them. Like they weren't sure how to proceed within the limits of their traditional training. They even said something about not having done their DPH in those moments, which refers to a specific element of traditional hypnosis training. So it's clear that they're looking for something more, a way to move beyond just relying on techniques and develop a more intuitive and responsive way of working with whatever comes up spontaneously from the unconscious. It's about being present and adaptable, really in the flow.
Then we hear from Lena, the participant who is a client before. And her perspective is so valuable because it's coming from someone who's actually experienced conversational hypnosis firsthand.
Mhm.
She describes it as more than revolutionary. She achieved these really fast and lasting results for issues that she had been struggling with for a long time, issues that even traditional Ericksonian hypnosis hadn't been able to fully resolve. And she's so convinced about this method that she actually admits to, like, hounding the trainer to let her join the training, even though she's not a therapist herself.
Lena's story is powerful, isn't it? It's like real-world evidence of how impactful this approach can be, straight from the client's perspective. The way she emphasizes how it's not superficial at all and how engaging and unpredictable the conversations are. It suggests that there's a much deeper level of interaction and resolution happening compared to what she experienced before. Her enthusiasm really makes you believe in the transformative potential of this method.
We also hear from a participant who practices hypnosis, and they explain it as this approach that basically avoids asking too many questions about the client's past, letting the unconscious lead the way. They're getting good results generally, but they say it feels like they're working blindly, which makes them a bit unsure. They're looking for a way to interact more directly with the unconscious, wanting more of a back and forth in their sessions.
This participant brings up a different kind of challenge. They value the wisdom of the unconscious, but they want to engage with it more consciously. It's like they want more confidence in responding to things that come up unexpectedly from the client, and they feel limited by their current understanding of how to work with those deep-seated beliefs. It's a desire for more tools, more ways to have a clearer conversation with the unconscious mind.
For sure, and I think that's a struggle a lot of practitioners can relate to. Lastly, we hear from a participant who's had some training before and is really interested in using these techniques with French-speaking clients. This person has experience with traditional hypnosis, the kind with scripts, and also therapeutic work with language and kinesiology. They talk about how they're already good at focused attention and active listening, but they see conversational hypnosis as this way to really amp up the leverage they have in therapy. It's about becoming even better at noticing those subtle unconscious cues that they might have missed before, and then knowing how to use them effectively.
I love how this participant ties the principles of conversational hypnosis back to those core therapeutic skills. They get that by improving their ability to see and work with those unconscious signals, they can make all their existing techniques even more powerful. It's about adding this whole other layer of awareness and responsiveness to their practice.
Totally. So after hearing all these different motivations, the trainer starts laying out the foundation of conversational hypnosis. And she begins by emphasizing how simple the core concepts actually are. It's about giving the client your full attention, like 100%, and really engaging in active listening.
Now, that might sound simple on the surface, but then she takes it a step further and says that hypnosis itself is that state of intense, focused attention. She makes a distinction between traditional hypnosis, which she says often ends up being a lot of talking by the therapist, and conversational hypnosis, where the main goal is to make sure the client feels truly heard and understood.
It's a big shift in the role of the therapist, right? In conversational hypnosis, they become more of a question asker than a talker, and their questions are driven by genuine curiosity. They really want to understand how the client thinks, what's going on in their mind that's created the problem they're facing. It's about uncovering the client's unique perspectives, the stories they tell themselves, and the beliefs they hold.
And that focus on genuine curiosity is key. It transforms the therapist from someone who provides the answers into someone who helps the client discover those answers for themselves. And the trainer makes another really important point in this model. There are no bad questions. The real gold is in the responses the questions evoke, the unconscious responses, even if what the client says on the surface doesn't seem that significant.
And this leads right into her introducing the hypnotic interview, which she says is the essential first step in conversational hypnosis. Something you can't skip, but it's not like a rigid protocol.
The whole point of this hypnotic interview is to go beyond the symptom that the client comes in with and start digging into the root of the issue. And the trainer really stresses how crucial extreme curiosity is at this stage. It's about resisting the urge to jump in and try to fix the problem right away. Instead, the therapist's job is to guide the client's own process of reflection and exploration.
By taking on this attitude of genuine curiosity, she says, it takes the pressure off the therapist to find solutions right away. She also points out that sometimes the most ordinary, even seemingly irrelevant questions can be incredibly effective in revealing the client's hidden beliefs and conclusions. It's like creating this space where the unconscious can speak through those unexpected channels.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, they're ready to move into the first practical demonstration of these principles in action. She announces that they're going to focus specifically on the hypnotic interview, and a participant named Jean-Luc volunteers to be the client. He presents with a minor issue of having trouble remembering names, and another participant, Isabel, steps up to be the therapist.
The trainer emphasizes that she'll be there to support and guide Isabel throughout the demonstration, really reinforcing that hands-on learning approach. And then someone asks a really interesting question. What if the therapist struggles with the same issue that the client is presenting?
It's a great question, and the trainer's response is really insightful. She explains that even though the symptom might be the same on the surface, the underlying causes and the beliefs and conclusions that go with it are probably different for each person. But she does acknowledge that if a therapist happens to share the same problem, it can make it harder to ask those truly open-ended questions. Their own experience might unconsciously bias their line of questioning. It's a reminder of how important self-awareness is in the therapeutic process.
It really highlights the importance of the therapist staying objective, even when the client's issue is something they've dealt with themselves. And then finally, she describes how they're going to set things up for this first demo, and she puts the spotlight on Jean-Luc, the volunteer client.
And that wraps up the first 30 minutes of this advanced conversational hypnosis training. What we've seen so far is the trainer setting the stage for a really relaxed experiential learning environment, which is such a contrast to those traditional theory-heavy trainings. We've also gotten these amazing glimpses into the minds of these experienced practitioners who are clearly looking to deepen their skills and go beyond what they see as the limitations of conventional approaches. And now, everyone's excited to see this hypnotic interview in action, to see those principles come to life.
Absolutely. As we finish this deep dive into the very beginning of this training, what really stands out is that emphasis on informality, on learning by doing, and on shifting the focus away from problem solving and towards deep, genuine curiosity. You can just feel how eager everyone is to try out this different way of working, a way that clearly resonates with their own experiences and their desire to have a more profound impact with their clients.
So as we wrap up, we'll leave you with this thought. Think about how approaching challenges in your own life, whether they're personal or professional, with that same kind of curiosity, Instead of jumping to find solutions right away, might change things for you. What if those symptoms, those things that seem like problems, are actually clues leading to something deeper? What if they're hiding a more interesting, more revealing story that you can uncover by asking open-ended questions and genuinely wanting to understand the story behind the story instead of just trying to fix what appears to be broken?
It's a powerful idea, and I think we can all benefit from exploring it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.